janefinch.com.
And beside me here is the longtime MP of York West, now known as Humber River Black Creek, Judy Sgro. Judy, first of all, I would like to congratulate you on being elected as our Member of Parliament for the 7th time. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, thank you for the question, Tom. I'm thrilled to have been elected for the 7th time. I certainly love what I do, and I love the community that I represent. So to have an opportunity again to be their voice and to fight on behalf of my many constituents it's a thrill and an honor to be able to serve.
It's been a long campaign. So are you tired?
For sure. 2.5 months is a terribly long time to keep living together. You know, when you put campaigns together, you got all of a sudden a whole bunch of different people that actually are living together about 18 hours a day. And it's a tough thing for everybody, not just the candidate, but the benefit of that was it gave us lots of time to knock on doors and to talk to people, but really talk to people, not 1 second here and there. So I think at the end of the day it was beneficial for the constituents as well as benefit for all of us.
Yeah. It got a lot of people involved, even a lot of young people, because it was going so long.
It was going so long, and I think the next one should be just about as long, because it really gives us a chance to talk to each other.
Yes. Okay, to get on more substantial issues, in the Toronto Star this morning, Thursday, October 22nd, the front page headline is Trudeau urged to act speedily on refugee vow. And then the clock is ticking on promise to bring 25,000 Syrians by the year's end. And then it says that as the world grapples with the largest refugee crisis in the Second World War, Justin Trudeau is faced with a daunting task of fulfilling a campaign promise to resettle 25,000 Syrian refugees in Canada by year end. So what do you think of that?
Well, it's quite a task. But needless to say, there's a lot of people in the queue that have been trying to come to Canada from Syria and Iraq through a variety of other groups of 5, through other churches and so on. So there's a lot of people in the queue that couldn't get here because of red tape and the fact that I don't think the government particularly wanted them to get here too quickly. So, but you still have to have effective screening and all of the things that are required. So I think it's going to be a daunting task, but one I know that Prime Minister-elect Mr. Trudeau is very committed to doing, and has already instructed the appropriate departments to do whatever necessary and whatever possible to reduce the backlog and get people here as quickly as possible. And that's working with our churches and humanitarian organizations and families who have been waiting for years to try to sponsor people. So there's a lot of people that's already in the queue. I don't know what the number is, but there's an awful lot that have been struggling with the red tape to get to a safe place like Canada.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. Thank you. So another issue in our community is youth. We've got a lot of youth here, and a lot of them have finished school and are out looking for jobs. And you mentioned when you were talking to one of my reporters that the Liberals will invest $40 million each year to help employers create more co-op placements for students in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and business programs, says Judy Sgro, the Liberal candidate seeking re-election. So what are your thoughts on that, the co-op program that you mentioned? Do you want
the areas that you mentioned, you know, the science, technology, math, and so on, those are the areas of today and the areas of the future where we need people working. And young people need the opportunity to get some experience. We know from talking to thousands of young people, they've got their education, they now have to pay back those loans, and they can't get a job. So 2 things. One, as a stopgap, was that until you have a job of earning $25,000 or more, the government will absorb the interest on your student loan. But the second is to open that door by working with industries throughout Canada to provide those co-op opportunities, those internships that are paid internships, not voluntary internships,
okay, yeah.
where they actually get a chance to get started and get a job. Many people get jobs as a result of working in co-op placement. They get that experience that's necessary, and they're often hired on to those very companies. So that would very much help with the high unemployment. I think it's 13.2 amongst our youth. And it would give them that opportunity to get that work experience, which everybody seems to insist on having. And they can't get it unless government is helping them.
Yeah, and you're committed to investing about $40 million in this program across Canada.
Clearly, there has to be a significant investment if we're going to make a difference. And I mean, if we want our young people to have a future in this country, and we need to open the doors for them. And if this is clearly an opportunity to open those doors and get people to have the experience that they need for them to get into the career that they want to do.
Yeah, and that's a very important investment.
They're the future. I mean, if our young people can't get a job and can't move forward with their education, how are we going to compete when all of the other countries in the world are putting millions of dollars into educating their kids? How are ours going to compete? So, you know, our job is to make sure that young people have opportunities for the future. They're the future of Canada, and Mr. Trudeau understands that more than anybody else.
Okay, there's another thing on unemployment insurance, and it mentions that to encourage employers to hire young Canadians for permanent positions, we will offer to a 12-month break in the unemployment insurance premiums. I suppose that's both for the employer and the employee, or?
I would imagine it would be. I mean, the technicalities of how all of these things will work will be certainly worked out through our Department of Finance on just how these things are going to work. But again, it's looking for incentives for companies so that young people can get that first year of solid employment. Because if they get that first year, chances are they're going to stay with that employer. And that's exactly what we want to happen. So we're looking at all kinds of different incentives. I'm sure there'll be more than just the employment insurance issue.
Okay, that's very good. Another issue in urban Canada is housing, and especially in Toronto here. And our new mayor John Tory has had a lot. Well, has done a lot of work trying to find out just what is in social housing and how it can be helped and how it can be made stronger. So the people on the ground are here in Toronto. That is the people who are making it go. It's the Toronto Community Housing. But what would a federal government? How could a federal government help us Torontonians who are working in this?
Well, we can help a lot. The federal government hasn't been into housing pretty much since the last Liberal government was in power. And so we know that there's significant issues of housing. Mayor Tory has set up a task force with Senator Eggleton and others that are reporting back the end of the year with recommendations on what needs to happen to Toronto community housing and to the future of social housing here in Toronto in particular. And part of what's been committed in the $60 billion infrastructure, $20 billion of that is for what's called the social infrastructure, and a big part of that is going to be for housing. So whether we're talking about creating more co-op housing or other aspects, it's helping to make a lot of the housing that we currently have, the housing stock under Toronto Community Housing, a lot of it is deplorable. Needs to be renovated, improved. The city itself doesn't have the funds to do it. So it's again about a partnership. So we want to put money on the table and work with the province and the cities so that we can create more safe, affordable housing. And that in particular includes housing for seniors. We've been talking about that a long time across Canada, and there's a real need for seniors to be able to sell their homes to the younger generation who hopefully will be employed, have good jobs, that they can move into seniors housing, but seniors apartments that they feel safe in. That's what they want, and we need to see that that's also created. Certainly, I'm very proud to talk all the time about Jane Finch and the wonderful people that live here. And over this next 4 years, I want to do everything I possibly can to improve the quality of life for all of them. So from our young people, it's making sure that they have safe places to go, that they have support academically for after-school programs, summer programs. Devon Jones from Brookview School has a wonderful program called YACE. It's one example of a community that's working so hard to make sure that all our young people have opportunity so that they can be doing their homework, doing some academic and some other more fun stuff, but at the same point, they're getting through school, they're improving their marks, because they are our future, and that's the future of our kids here. So I want to continue to be investing every way I can in our young people so that they're in school and that they're getting the help they need to get the kind of opportunities that they want in the future. Let me say, there was a lot of young people involved in our campaign in particular, and I was thrilled to see that. It's their country. You know, Tom, you and I are at a certain point in our life where we're looking back and forward, but our young kids are all looking forward. And we have to do what we can. We have an obligation to do that, but they have to get engaged as well. They do make a huge difference when they pay attention, they come out to vote, they come out delivering flyers. It's their country too, and they have to get involved. I think Elections Canada, next election, should hire all our grade 12s to make sure that they're manning the polls. Many of them were this year, and they really get a chance to start participating in democracy. The community hours, many of our young students came to get their community hours and had a chance to work on our campaign firsthand and see just what it really means to participate in democracy. I have to say I'm very excited. Mr. Trudeau is an exciting man to be around. He has a real vision for this country, and it's one of providing opportunity. It's providing hope for people that there will be a better tomorrow. And that comes from our young people knowing that they've got a solid education and we're going to help them with that, to making sure that seniors have a good quality of life as they age. There's a variety of issues in between there, and I hope that compassion, hope, and hard work are the core of all of those values, because I think that that's what Mr. Trudeau wants to see happen. I think he'd like to have an opportunity to leave a real legacy of a compassionate Canada. And that's what I want to see, is a compassionate Canada back. And I want to see that compassion actively working here in our great riding of Humber River, Black Creek.